Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanmo TV on VidMe. Now, I've come across a really strange story and I thought I'd share it with you. I know Dave Cullen, Computing Forever, he already has. But I thought I'd give you my take on it as a kind of reply to Dave. Now, in this post-election turmoil, the post-inauguration turmoil of Donald Trump, some really weird ideas have come to light. Very weird ideas indeed. Now, one of those is this burgeoning concept that we're actually in a parallel universe. Now, this is what's happened is the universe we're living in is an alternative one, which is a strange thing to say because alternate or alternative is really a relative term in this context. I mean, people in an alternate universe could say, well, ours is the alternate universe, you see. It depends on your perspective. It's, is this my garden or his garden, etc., etc. Now, the idea is, the evidence for this is, well, basically Donald Trump is the US president. And he's not meant to be. We're supposed to be in a universe, the proper universe, where Hillary Clinton is the president. And the reason this happened, the way this happened apparently, was because some experiment went wrong with the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, or if your opinion is different and you view it as the experiment didn't go wrong, it went right, it went the way it was meant to do, and the damage was done on purpose. I don't know. I think if they wanted to drag us up anywhere, I'd have thought, if we were in the proper universe where Trump was president, they'd want to drag us into an alternative one, the powers that be I'm talking about, where Hillary was president. That's what I would assume would be what they wanted. Now, the evidence cited, now it comes in many forms, but I mean, basically CERN have issued a statement saying that is not the case. They actually did make a public statement saying they haven't put us in any alternative universe, we're not in a parallel dimension. But basically, this has got a lot to do with the Mandela effect. Now, the Mandela effect is a strange thing. I'll say, I've actually, if you go to the description box, there's some links to some background articles where I've talked about this before. Right. But the Mandela effect is just a recently identified phenomenon in paranormal research, and it can only actually be traced back to 2010 on the website of Fiona Broome called the Mandela Effect.com. And what it is now, she became interested when she noticed that people were talking about how they remembered things differently to how things actually are. Okay, how they're actually recorded in historical records. And this is quite normal. I mean, a human memory is a fragile thing. It can easily disappear and can be worn down and warped and twisted and distorted and weakened. And there's one of the common memory errors is conflation, where you simply remember things differently to how they actually were. You might recall somebody you knew many years ago and you haven't seen since, and you're shown a photograph of them from that same era, and you say, blimey, they don't resemble the mental image you have of them at all. So that's normal. That's normal. The difference with the Mandela effect is that large numbers of unconnected people are afflicted by the same misremembrance. And the most common anomaly refers to Nelson Mandela, the political activist, former South African president, hence the name of the effect. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and most people are concerned, he died in 2013. There was a big funeral for him and things like that. But a surprisingly large number of people remember Mandela dying in prison in 1986. Strange, isn't it? They say things like, well, I saw it on TV, I read newspapers, he died in 1986 in jail. It was all over the media. So if they're mistaken, why are they all mistaken the same way? That's the question. And I mean, if you go to, like I say, go to the description box. There's an article in there. There's a link to an article where I talk about that in more detail. Okay, so that's the Mandela effect, basically. And now Dave, he makes a contemptuous joke out of the story. He does a big laugh about it. And to be honest, it is rather quaint. It is rather droll. And so I understand why he finds it funny. I do too, and a bit derisible. But is it really beyond possibility that what they're saying is true? And the answer is no, absolutely not. Because according to the many worlds hypothesis, which was pioneered by Hugh Everett III, a famous physicist, and many others since, many other mainstream physicists, maybe even that smiling simian of the small screen himself, Professor Brian Cox. Oh yeah, God, I hate that man, I really do. I hate that slimy little bloody effeminate git, arrogant, obnoxious twat. I really can't stand him. Oh, that's a story for another time. But yeah, I mean, the BBC they actually made a programme about this, a part of their Horizon series, which is it's the absolute flagship of the establishment. They would do a lot of debunking programmes as well, and they did a programme called Parallel Universes. Now, the many worlds hypothesis is what Hugh Everett came about to basically explain quantum fluctuations. Now, this the quantum physics is basically that when you get down to the subatomic particles within the atoms, they behave very differently to how they behave, how solid objects behave as we know them. So any object you may be holding in your hand, like this glass, it's a solid object, it's made of glass, but there are atoms inside it. It's made of atoms. If you magnified it to its fullest extent, you'd find atoms. Within those atoms, though, are subatomic particles that make up the atom, and those behave very differently indeed. In fact, they're strange things, like they can sometimes be in more than one place at the same time, which seems impossible, and it is in the macro world, but it's not at the subatomic world. And sometimes they can be waves, and sometimes they can be particles. They're little packets of energy, which is where quantum comes from. Packets, little packets of energy, and sometimes they can be particles, and sometimes they can be waves. And even more mysterious, they seem to change when they're being looked at, as if they know they're being watched. This is very, very odd indeed. Very odd thing indeed. Now, what Hugh Everett and others have said, basically to explain these different fluctuations, is that basically all the different possibilities of the quantum world are actually being realised, but they're being realised in different universes. And so there must be a vast number of these parallel universes out there. Basically, for every single quantum fluctuation, basically two universes are created. One universe in which the fluctuation goes one way, and one universe where it goes another way. And of course, when you sort of run that process into more and more for permutations, eventually you get into a situation where basically everything happens. Every single thing that's physically possible happens in different universes. And there must be an incalculable number of these universes. Basically, for every single quantum fluctuation since the Big Bang, there is basically two separate universes. Anyway, now repeat that back to me. I want to make sure you were listening. Okay, so Professor Ben will continue. Now, like I said, I covered the issue. I've talked about. I haven't made a video about it yet, but I think I'll do a video about Philip Pullman and his new books, because he uses the many worlds hypothesis as part of his fantasy stories, his Dark Materials trilogy. So basically, what this means, not only is there a universe in which Donald Trump failed, not only could there be, people say there could be, there might be a universe out there in which Donald Trump failed to become president, but there is one. There has to be. Because everything that's possible happens. So there's a parallel universe where Hillary's the president. There's many, huge numbers of them. Could CERN have had a hand in that process? And this is where I'm going to get really tinfoil hat on you, and I'll ask you to bear with me. But I do have links in the description box where I talk about. I've done a radio show actually, and a couple of videos and things like that, where I talk about CERN. And yes, it is. It is actually possible that what's being done at CERN is actually creating this Mandela effect and things like that. So theoretically, this story that Dave laughs at is possible. I mean, there's other evidence. I mean, they say other things like, the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, the Chicago Cubs. Now, this is what the researchers tabled. People who think we're in the Trump-iverse. We're stuck in the Trump-iverse. We need to get out of it. It's like a Kind of, do we need to go through some sort of mirror or something, you know, or some Stargate? Let me out of the Trump-iverse! Basically, the strange things is the Chicago Cubs, they're a baseball team. Don't ask me about baseball, I'm British, we don't play baseball over here. But anyway, they've won the sport's biggest tournament in the United States. The World Series it's called. Strange name, considering it's not played anywhere apart from America. Americans, they love sports no one else plays. It's really weird. But anyway, they tried every year for 100 years and they failed to do it. Last time they did it was 1908. So it's almost 100 years, 99 years. So that, apparently, now they've won it, that is another reason we're in the Trump-iverse. So that's apparently is. But despite what I've just said, on a practical level, I do agree with Dave. This is the only reason this is happening is because Trump's opponents, all the SJWs, all the special snowflakes, they're still in denial. They're finding new and creative ways of staying in denial, basically. And this is just one of them. This is one of the weirdest. They're still in such shock and dismay that Trump won. They just still can't face it. And I've said before, you know, the political events of 2016, the novelty of them was so incredible. And that this propaganda that they've been fed, they absolutely believe that Trump is the Antichrist, the political equivalent of the Antichrist. So this is their apocalypse. Now, who wouldn't want some escapism from that? And as Computing Forever, Dave Computing Forever, as he mentioned on one of his previous videos, there's a spoof website, hillarybeattrump.org. Now, this is it's a complete satire, okay? But it's been dropped into this unexpected role as an online safe space for the easily triggered. And so basically, you know, all the whiners, they go there and they find comfort from going there and looking at Hillary beat Trump, and it's just a fictional universe basically where Hillary Clinton's the president. As for the Chicago Cubs, it's well, it's very simple. It's the same as any other sports team. A century of training has paid off. They finally got their game together. That's all there is to it, you know. And my own view, as I've said before, the election of Donald Trump to the White House is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's actually an excellent sign. And along with Brexit and a couple of other things, it's an upheaval within the political world that I think can only lead to better things. It's the novelty of it, if nothing else, is what's good about it. And that's really what the world needs. The world needs a kick up the backside. The world needs to get out of political normality. And Trump and Brexit are dragging us out of that. They're dragging us into a world where the rules are completely different. And finally, we can achieve real change. It's the best year of my life politically, certainly. So yes, there has to be a parallel universe out there somewhere where Hillary slithered and slimed and managed to get her way into the Oval Office. All I can say is I'm bloody glad I'm not in that one. Thank you for watching Hapanwo TV on VidMe. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.